I see where she's coming with that, but I also think that can work in his advantage. For all we know, littler could be better.
Something that LeBron points out is incentives of the individual and incentives of the crowd. And we're at the point in time during this program where the castmates members do not have the same incentives as someone on a current show such as a Love Island or a Survivor today or even Amazing Race of today. All that to say, at this point in time, unbeknownst to us, we were witnessing the most purest form of this show could ever be made.
Full warm sun, but because on this beach, you could walk away with a tan and stretches of sand on Earth. Not because of the crystal blue water or this beautiful warm sun, but because on this beach, you could walk away with a tan and $25,000 in cold hard cash. Welcome to Moolah Beach.
Do you remember this show? I do. This is Moolah Beach, or as I called it and subsequently had to search for 4 hours, Moolah Island. But it's not that, it's Moolah Beach. Moolah Beach, television program. They aired in 2001, September 8th. That's right, 3 days before 9/11. Strangely, being 6 years old at the time, I remember this television show in a lot more detail than I do coming home from first grade and wondering why people cared so much that a building was on fire. But Moolah Beach, I watched every episode of this show as it aired, usually with my cousin and aunt that I lived with at the time. We did not miss an episode. And looking back at it, I think there was a good for my aunt to keep us kids occupied instead of wandering through the news about potential war, especially with her husband being a Marine. Back to Moolah Beach. Moolah Beach was a teen edition of Survivor. If my audience is mostly Americans or somewhere in the Western world, I'm sure you're familiar with that primetime television hit. So I won't go into too much detail, but Moolah Beach was a teen version of that. It consisted of 12 teens flown into Hawaii for a chance to win a whopping $20,000. Doesn't seem like much today, but to be honest, I'd take a $20,000 right now. So we have 7 whites, 2 Mexicans. I'm not sure if they're Mexicans. I just said that because I don't know why I said that. 2 Hispanics of some form, and 2 blacks. 1 Asian. And that's what consists of the teens, ranging from 14 to 17, I believe. Now, if you've been paying attention to any of my recent posts, you know I've been reading Gustave Le Bon of The Crowd. In The Crowd, we're learning, or I should say I'm learning and talking. Crowds are moved by simplicity. They're not moved by contradicting thoughts and or contradicts or anything that requires too much thought. The intelligence of a person shrinks when they're in a crowd because they're averaging out to simplicity. This also calls for a decrease in morality, and that decrease in morality usually comes from the strength that the individual feels when they're moving as a crowd, as many become one. And in that moment, we are the most powerful people, or maybe the most useful tools are those that can, are tools that can provide an image that can, either an image that can, from a simple word that goes into your mind to produce such as a word that can produce an image, or an image itself. Images are very simple, and a way that I like to think of it is a wave. People come together and they form a wave. You might see this at a stadium when they show the flashlight, at a sporting event, and everyone goes woof. And when you look from afar, it seems like one motion going together. And in this wave, the simplicity can be shown. Let's go from the extreme, a tidal wave. A tidal wave could be started from a large seismic event. Is this seismic? I can't think of the word. A large earthquake, maybe on a ridge, or maybe in the middle of the ocean, that causes the wave, the tidal wave. And the tidal wave has no morality. The tidal wave has no thoughts. It's just going to go with the energy. And as it continues, the only thing that will stop it is either another powerful push or a hard roadblock, maybe like a country or a beach or a something of the sort. Watching Moolah Beach and looking at the time intervals where a commercial will usually come in, we are seeing a glimpse of a promoted website, a website that had behind the scenes and a space for fans to interact, and reminds you that this is in 2001. This is before current social media, where we are constantly in talks through the interwebs, communicating with each other, sending things, being entertained, digesting media. At this time, and also at this time, this is before we have a social norm of reality television stars. So there's not a set guidelines for how people should go on the show and act. We're not expecting one person to have a goal of becoming famous after the show, or promoting something to keep a relevancy after the show. This is actually one of the, going back in time, this is a very pristine space and time where we have people acting almost, of course there's still cameras, but almost genuinely in front of these cameras, and having reactions that a normal person would have without the know-it-all, or without the wisdom of seeing season after season of contestants going through the same interactions. And also, these are teens. There's not something that we have seen on modern media at that point in time. Something that LeBron points out is incentives of the individual and incentives of the crowd. And we're at the point in time during this program where the castmates members do not have the same incentives as someone on a current show such as a Love Island or a Survivor today, or even Amazing Race of today. All that to say, at this point in time, unbeknownst to us, we were witnessing the most purest form of this show that could ever be made. Okay, now getting to the show. JD the host instantly reminded me of an old friend of mine. Well, not exactly a friend, but the Dr. think he's Dr. Milton H. Erickson. Milton H. Erickson, he was an American psychiatrist and psychologist. And he was the founding president of the American Society of Clinical Hypnosis. I was introduced to him and his work, The Nature of Hypnosis and Suggestion. Now, keep that in mind and watch this.
That'd be a nice challenge. And Moolah Beach is going to challenge you both mentally and physically. So I think we should just start right now. We'll find out.
That'd be a nice challenge. And Moolah Beach is going to challenge you both mentally and physically. So I think we should just start right now. We're going to find out what you're made of. And so is everybody else. Chassie, how you doing? You get along with most people?
Yes, I do.
Really?
Yes, I get along with most people.
And is there one guy here that you would not want to be partners with?
One guy,
Say it.
Jacob. I'm sorry.
Why would it be Jacob?
Because most of the other guys seem physically fit.
Jacob,
Yeah.
good things come in small packages?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah? You think maybe she might be making a mistake?
Yeah, I think so, maybe.
Why's that?
I'm able to do just what they are, and I think I can go a really long way, too.
Good man.
I felt kind of bad when I said Jacob because, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but then Jacob told me afterwards that he didn't mind. She said my name, and it kind of made me feel a little down.
I agree with Chassie's choice in the sense that, Jacob hasn't, struck me as, the person I want to be my partner.
I see where she's coming with that, but I also think that could work in his advantage. For all we know, littler could be better.
I feel
Now right here, look how simple that was. Not just simplicity in the question, but in the simplicity that the choice of who he asked made the, interaction move and escalate. He chose someone who's very verbal, very social, to then use that sociability to put it on front of the group, to put it on blast. That's the first thing he did. So now he took that sociability to point out the weakest link in the group. So that is, even if someone might say, oh, I don't agree, or I do not, I think there could be whatever you could say to contradict that. Again, remember, when you're in groups, there are no contradictions. So now you're using the loudest, I shouldn't say loudest, but the mouth of the group, just for a lack of a other term, to point out the weakest link, and almost having, through her, an agreement that contestant is the weakest.
Kyle, let's talk about you for a second. You have a girlfriend at home, don't you? And I think she was pretty worried about you coming here. Yes, she was. Who's the one girl she would be most worried about you being here with? Who would it be? From her perspective, who's the one girl?
Summer.
Now, does that mean out of respect for your girlfriend, you would go out of your way not to choose Summer as a partner?
Probably, yes.
So Summer could help you win $25,000. You'd pass that up for your girlfriend. Changing his mind a little bit, huh?
No, I'll stick with it. I'd rather do what my heart wants me to do. She's very pretty and everything, but that's probably the best way is to not be with her because, not just for Nicole, but for me because, I don't know, I have other choices, so.
I guess Kyle is one of the biggest flirts. I know he's trying to not be because of his girlfriend, but guys do that anyway.
Girls might think that I'm flirting, but it's just because I'm being, me.
I know it's like.
Now here we are painting the picture. He painted the picture taking a contestant with a girlfriend back home, how we know groups work with what we know, just not even from Gustav, but just from life experience or just from sociability of living whatever. We know that that picture of having a girlfriend home already has the attention of the girls. Then he uses that picture that has been painted and asks the guy that he has asked and painted that picture with to then point out the competition his girl will have. Therefore, points out the prettiest girl. Therefore, having a group conclusion of who should be at the top. The top, and he doesn't have to exactly be best looking or anything, but the fact that he has already acquired a woman and now he's placing another woman on the pedestal, if it was predetermined or not, is then situation in that is confirmed in that group setting, conducted by JD.
Doesn't hold back anything.
How you doing, Brittany? You know, we learned about you. You're a very picky eater. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, why don't we bring in 2 Hawaiian traditional gifts right now for you? Brittany, this show is about challenges, and we're going to see what you're really made of. How willing are you to go all the way and prove it? Hello. What is that? How willing are you to go all the way and prove it to the other guys? One of these is squid. The other one is poi, which is boiled taro root.
Oh, what's that?
Which one are you going to dig into?
I think the poi. The roots.
Pass that over. Prove it to these guys what you're made of. Put down as much of that as you can. Yes, you do. Oh, yeah!
Now here, this is, I suppose this will be the last clip I use today. This is now, he's taking from the first part where we've found the weak link of the male. So think of incentives and think of incentives. He's already pointed out the weakest link of the male. He had another male put another woman on a pedestal. And so now we have a third woman who, I say woman, a girl, who, after not being put on that pedestal, now, and not being asked the first question, now she's in a position where she has nothing to stand on as far as when we're making teams. And so now it's a added pressure. I like to think of this as pressure on the middle class. You see like maybe the lower class accept their fate, higher class, they like their position. Now the middle class are left to fight for what's theirs. And so now with this added pressure, with the same incentive, the same incentive as the beginning, but now added pressure as people have pointed out others. Now she is it's easier for her to get gonna have to cut a lot of this out. It's easier for her to put her into a position where she has to prove herself. Now that she is in a position to prove herself, it's almost like you can think of it as an initiation ritual, or you can think of it as what's the other word? Plug the other word in here if you like. Humiliation tactic. Now that she has to prove herself, you can almost, in some instances, like going to college sororities and such, it's almost in a position where you can get her to do whatever because she's looking for the stability of a placement. Kind of. Gustav talks about this in his book when he talks about the middle class going to college, and as more people go to college, there's still a limited amount of spaces for professions. So even though you might have a more educated society, there's still a limited amount of roles, and so it's still a pressure that you can still apply to them, even if they are educated, even if they meet the requirements. And with this, you have a separation. You have separation of those chosen, separation of those ready to work harder, and separation of those who have who detest the system as a whole.
It has to be the fact that I knew that those guys were watching me and that they had to decide whether or not I was going to be their partner, if they wanted me to be their partner or not. So I knew I had to show them that I have the will to do it. So I chose it.
I'm going to show the force.
That's all I have for today. I may make a part 2. I haven't rewatched the whole series, but if I see anything else that makes me want to add to the video or connects to anything that I'm reading or learning, I'll make a part 2 for this. Or if you're interested, let me know in the comments. Thank you. And subscribe. Peace.